if you were to become immortal, how would you structure your life to continue giving it meaning after, let's say, hundreds or thousands of years?
I thought about this a lot, and I still don't actually have a good answer with it. But if you have all the time in the world, literally, it's like I just don't see the motivation to do much because you always have tomorrow. So I honestly don't know how that would affect me psychologically. I mean, I tried to answer that question in the book, but I still don't have a satisfying answer. And I think that's exactly what would happen is like people would be thrilled by the prospect, but disappointed by the reality.
This is the future.
Hello and welcome to the Alternate Futures podcast, where we chat with indie sci-fi creators about their work, the world, and anything in between, or beyond. Today I'm here with Zachry Wheeler. Zachry is an award-winning science fiction novelist, screenwriter, and coffee slayer. He enjoys English football, stand-up comedy, and is known to lurk around museums and brew pubs. He never intended to be a writer. He wanted to become an accountant, until halfway through the program when boredom drove him to computer science. He joined the tech bubble of the late 1990s at a time when tech companies were handing out jobs to anyone who could spell computer, and now considers this the point when his writing life began, albeit with technical manuals and code. Now with a growing fiction backlist, he sometimes describes writing as a never-ending battle of brain-melting masochism. But since he finds few things more rewarding than a happy reader, he promises to keep writing as long as his fans keep reading. Hi, Zachry. Thanks for joining me today.
How's it going, Edwin? Thanks for having me.
So usually I start with a bit of the backstory of you, but writing as a never-ending battle of brain-melting masochism. I got to start there. I wonder if you could just unpack that for us a bit.
Oh, sure. I guess I like I really like delving into new skills and kind of seeing where I can take them, learning how to do new things. And writing just has that kind of bottomless pit of improvement. It's like you never really truly master it unless you're like, of Orwell quality. Of that, I am not. you know, but yeah, just I like that I never stop learning new tidbits. And I mean, there have been times where years into my authorship, I'll discover, oh crap, I do that. And go back through old manuscripts. It's like, all right, now I got to update the whole lot.
So
that
you
kind of
actually
thing.
go back and update some of your older stuff then.
Yeah, if it's egregious, like there are certain you know don't do's I'll discover or something like that, and it'll prompt like a big wave of edits. But yeah, I keep them all up to date if I find like a crutch that I've been leaning on and I didn't see until later into the my authorship.
So just prior to that, then you did want to be an accountant initially, which is, I mean, it's not an unheard of career choice, but it is a little bit on
It
the, let's say,
Yeah.
safe, maybe boring side, as you discovered.
Yeah, I mean, I went through high school. I was a good student, and math and science were my subjects. I really loved them. I was particularly fond of math, but it takes getting to college and looking at and going through the accounting curriculum to realize, oh, math is just a teeny tiny part of of accounting. There's a whole lot of business and theory associated with it, and it just got to the point. It's like I do not like this at all. So I had switched to computer science specifically because it leaned more into my wheelhouse. And I've been just writing that ever since.
Right. The irony, I guess, is that given the march of AI now, I suppose the business side is probably going to become more prevalent with accounting and
Oh,
things
yeah.
like that, because the math will be handled so simply by the
Oh,
any
very
of the
much so.
programs. Yeah.
And I mean, AI has been rumbling in the background for many years. I mean, especially being in tech. I mean,
Hmm.
we've been talking about this forever. I mean, hell, Jaron Lanier has been sounding the alarm ever since, social media became a thing. So it's been on it's been in the back of our minds for a while, at least in the tech field. And now it's just like, it feels just absolutely seismic right now. Like the massive shift. So I'm definitely leaning into trying to stay ahead of the curve with that. And it's already creeping into a lot of the tech fields. I mean, just using it for code validation, for instance, is a very common tactic.
Hmm.
So it's been a wild ride. over the last year, especially.
Yeah, it's interesting the sort of delay, because I do remember a lot of warnings about internet social media back 15 years ago, perhaps, with cybersecurity and things like that. And, don't put all your stuff online, but no one listens. And, here we are, like I say, a decade and a half later, and everyone's going, oh no, my privacy. And you're like, well, you gave it away like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a bit late
It's
now.
like, and for any listeners wondering who the hell Jaron Lanier is, he's one of the big grandfather founders of AI. So he was one of the pillars, and like him, along with others that kind of sounded that alarm, like the Cal Newports of the world, I've been paying attention to for many years. So they've had a lot of influences on how I see that world as well, in the current internet model, the social media model, the advertising model, all of that. So it's been interesting to see how it's all played out over the last decade.
Right. And of course, then there's the whole singularity idea with which I interpreted as all the fields merging kind of into one, although it's usually interpreted as, let's say, self-aware AI or something like that.
Yeah.
Which everything now that it's starting to happen, all of the people predicting dates are moving their dates forward. So who's it? Ray Kurzweil, who's now of Google, right? I think he's moved his date for the singularity forward by half a decade or something.
It's been really strange, because I mean it's been a running joke for years. It's like, do you want Skynet? This is how you get Skynet, and then to actually kind of see everything pushing towards is like, oh, we might actually live to see this. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah,
was
I feel
expecting to be as close as we are.
Exactly. I feel the same way. It's all the dreams of the science fiction dreams of of childhood, right? That now that they're starting to come true, you're like, what? That maybe they weren't so much dreams as nightmares.
Yeah. I mean, it can just, and it's weird to be in the tech bubble with it, just because it's simultaneously really exciting and really frightening, and you kind of waffle between it. And on any given day, you're either super scared or super jazzed to see where the new thing takes you. But it's been interesting and slightly scary.
Yeah, no, I can definitely appreciate that dichotomy. How do you manage to stay at the front of the wave, as it were, with it moving so fast?
It's really difficult. And to be honest, I don't even know if I am. I don't even know if I am out there. Most of what I do is based on side projects, like side development projects, kind of using AI to see how I can enhance what I'm already doing. I haven't. I was like, I have not gotten to a point where I'm like using it to generate side hustles or anything like that. I have absolutely no idea what the ethical repercussions of that is going to be. And plus, I'm not, because I work for the university system, it's just like I keep that extremely separated, because there's going to be I'm anticipating a ton of new policy drops in the next several years, if not by the end of the year.
Right.
So most of what I'm doing is on the peripheral, just kind of seeing what it can do for me. And funny enough, my wife and I use it a lot for gaming. So like kind of delving into like art and verbiage for like D&D campaigns and stuff like that, which has been super helpful.
Oh, that's
so
interesting.
that's been fun to see what it can do, and again, slightly scary.
Yeah, no, those are kind of the sort of safe uses, aren't it? Which I quite like. I mean, it does have definitely it definitely has uses, let's say valid uses, that aren't sort of highly questionable.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the thing. It's like, from a tech brain, that's when it gets like really, really scary, because it's not so much what you're using for, is what you understand it can be used for.
Exactly.
So as soon as you wrap your head around what this can do and what it's capable of, then you immediately jump to, holy crap, I can absolutely see how this can be manipulated and used for nefarious purposes. And it's like one of the ones that really jumped out at me is like, just imagine the Nigerian prince scams on steroids. It's
Right.
like, and the bad actors using it's like it's gonna make phishing indistinguishable.
Yeah. It's
And
already
being
pretty
able
hard, isn't
to,
it?
yeah, and just being able to write code that wraps that into an absolutely seamless scam. So now usually you'll get a scam in your mailbox, and you can already see it's like, okay, it's broken English. I understand this is coming from somewhere else. It's like, now it's not. Now it's exactly, you can scammers can just kind of tailor it exactly where they want to attack, and it's just like, holy crap, this is this is this is going to result in just absolute economic turmoil.
Yeah.
There's going
Yeah.
to be a
I
lot
think
of unfortunate victims.
I think that's why I go for the general rule of never clicking a link in any email. I
Yep.
always will go to the original
Exactly.
site. And I
Yeah,
guess
that's
the frightening part of your sort of the one step further on your chain of events is once you realize what it can be used for, then you realize it will be used for that.
oh yeah.
Whatever that is, and however nefarious, someone in the world somewhere is going to be using it that way, and
Oh yeah,
probably
and
some
that's just
governments
like
too.
the tip of the iceberg. Oh yeah, and that's you're exactly right. It's like, and that's where you start going down the rabbit hole, and it's like, this is gonna be bad. It's gonna be used by governments. It's gonna be used by scammers. It's gonna be used by all sorts of nefarious individuals to start really they're going to be able to dictate the tone of any conflict or struggle or it's just, and then you have to shut your brain off and go watch cat videos to reset the existential crisis.
Yeah, entirely different channels of let's call it media access. I mean, I basically myself follow like a wide range of independents to try and see if they get some of the original video content or something. But even that, like you say, I mean, tying this into the next election coming up in your country as well,
Yeah.
in 2016, featuring one of the lead candidates now as well, you had
Yeah.
the awareness of the Cambridge Analytica Facebook issues, which some say were also done in elections before that, but that's a different issue. This time around, we potentially have deep fakes.
Yeah.
So like you say, I mean, either this election or the next one, it's going to be completely mad, right? You won't be able to tell anything that's going on, basically.
Yeah.
They can
Yeah, you
basically
can.
deep fake each other.
Yep, you can absolutely feel the calm before the storm right now in the States. It's just no matter where you are on the spectrum, you're just kind of dreading the chaos because you know it's coming. You know you won't be able to get away from it, and it's you know you're not going to be able to trust hardly anything, and it's a really precarious place to be in as far as like just the collective national headspace. And I'm definitely doing my, I mean, I'm an ardent non-participant. It's just like I'm right in the middle. I'm deathly allergic to politics. I don't even, but even there, it's just like I can feel it. I can absolutely feel the rumblings coming. It's just like, oh, this is going to be bad.
Well,
This
it's
is
so
going to be really
tribalized
bad.
that, yeah, I mean, because I'm a centrist, and
Mm.
but I would imagine in the U.S. And we're going that way in England, but we are resisting to some degree. But you see now more and more in the U.S. like it's reached ground level combat more or less, right?
Yeah.
Shootings all over the
Mm.
place and all this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And even as someone who's trying to stay out of the tribalism, I mean, you're easily in a possible space to be a casualty, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's
that's,
almost like leave the country, right?
yeah, and it's been like my wife and I actually moved out of the country during that first administration. We lived in Toronto 2 years. It was just completely coincidence,
Mm.
and we were going up because she was doing further schooling, getting her master's, and we were in Toronto, and it was strange feeling the reactions as Americans there. It's just like, what is going on in your country? It's like, we don't know. It's like, why are you asking us? So there is and we live in New Mexico, where I mean, as one person definitely put it, it's the closest you can get to expatriation without leaving the country.
Right.
It's very live and let live atmosphere. I mean, people are pretty disconnected from the national discourse, but even here you can feel it. And I can only imagine what it's like to live in like the an uber polarized area in one side or the other. It's just got to be absolutely gut wrenching.
Any one of the big cities, I guess, would be really nasty. It's going to be an interesting. Well, I think it's going to continue more or less for the next 2 elections, probably. But I do keep thinking that this next election is going to show us a lot of things. I don't know what they are, but but I think it's going to show us a lot of things.
Yeah. And the big question on a lot of people's mind is, hearkening back to our AI. It's like, what piece of content is going to spark the violence? Because it is America. We are we have a certain tenacity, to put it a polite way. So there is a dread in the air for that. It's just like, what's going to spark it, and there's a high probability it might be AI related.
Well, and it does feel like so much of the population has been primed for violence. Like it's almost like you say, it's on the feeling there's so many groups that are ready to go off, and just like whatever that match is, or whatever that spark is, that just sets them off.
And that's one of the reasons I really am happy to be living in New Mexico. It's like, it's got its own problems, but it's very much a, my name's Paul, that's between y'all kind of a vibe to it.
And if not, you got lots of wide open spaces to see them coming.
Exactly.
So from your country to the one I'm living in right now, you also like English football.
I do.
From the back of your background.
For those listening, I got a whole bunch of team scarves behind me hanging up on the wall as my Zoom background. But my wife and I are big Premier League fans. We follow, actually the whole system. I mean, we go all the way from United down to Wrexham. So we follow it all. Yeah.
So, I mean, I do hesitate to ask, because that's where the tribalism in England comes in. But which team is the ones you follow? Well, what are the teams you follow then?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
I know.
All right, I'm gonna give you the answer, but I'm gonna
you're
give
safe.
it a qualifier too. This is a safe space. All right.
And I'm fine. I don't have a preference. All
right.
Hopefully my studio can't be attacked.
I am a supporter of United, and that's Manchester United. And I will clarify this with my fandom goes back to the Alex Ferguson days. So when I first got to the point where I could regularly follow the Premier League, when all of the broadcasting was starting to become regular in the States, is like, this was at like peak Ferguson. So I'm watching like, Paul Scholes and Edwin van der Sar and all those like just huge names just tearing up the pitch. And Paul is still like my favorite player of all time. I absolutely adored watching him. And they were just running riot, and being able to watch like the treble seasons, and it was just magical. It was absolutely magical watching, Ferguson United just tear through the league, and seeing him in the Champions League, like, taking it to Barcelona, and of course, they gave it right back too. But it was just absolutely mesmerizing. I absolutely adored it. And then once Ferguson retired, United was had a couple of bumpy seasons. It's been a rough ride ever since. But yeah, it's been, I say I'm a Manchester United supporter, but I follow the whole league. I just really love watching a great match. I like my wife is a Liverpool fan, so that makes things interesting in the household.
And so you do actually travel over here to watch games occasionally?
Yes. Oh, that's one of our absolute favorite things to do. It is just a magical experience. Oh, I actually have a story you'll appreciate from the 2015 season when Leicester won it all. That 5,000 to 1 absolute mind screw season where the little piddly club just rose up to dominate the league. It's a magical season. Well, what I typically do whenever we are gearing up to do a trip over there to see a game, is we'll get the tickets like, many months in advance, because we're having to set up everything accordingly. And with the English point system, it's not like here in the US where everything has playoffs. So you never know which game at the end of the season is going to be like the deciding factor. So one of our previous travels had gotten canceled and we needed to reschedule it. And I was able to get tickets to the United Leicester match at Old Trafford when Leicester could win the title. And this is like, sports story of this century kind of thing playing out, worldwide. All eyes on this this one game, and all the point system had lined up to where Leicester could win the title at Old Trafford against United. And we were there, and we had like creme de la creme seats. We had like our own entrance, our own little private bar. We did, I think it was called the 300 Club or the 100 Club. And so we had gone all out because we were just making this into a huge like vacation fun thing. So we spared no expense. So our little tour guide that was kind of shuttling us back and forth between the stadiums, and we had already seen we had watched, and the night before, total side note, we got to see Tim Howard's last match at Goodison Park as the Everton keeper. So that was very special. So we're huge Tim fans. We love him. And so we're at this United game, and I remember we were going to the stadium, Old Trafford, and the guy was looking at us like, "You do realize you can sell those tickets for like £20,000 a piece." These things, this is like the game of the century. And it just so happened that all the point spread lined up to have us there at that match, because we had the tickets for months. And no one had expected that Leicester was going to go on this absolute tear. Now, of course, they ended up drawing the match 1-1 and won it the next day when Chelsea beat Tottenham. But it was just like you could hear a pin drop in that stadium. Just because, all the United fans were afraid that, Leicester was going to beat them on their home turf. So there's like, well, this footage is going to be shown forever. Leicester beating United at Old Trafford. So it was a really weird atmosphere there, but it was just a magical experience. So that's like the peak of like our football travels to date. It
So
was so
obviously
much fun.
you didn't take up the offer on the 20,000. 20,000
Oh, no. It's like there is that little moment in the back of your head is like, holy crap, really? We pay for the whole vacation? What am I talking about? Like, this is a once in a lifetime experience. So you could probably see these two scarves right here. Those are the
Right.
like dual scarves that I got at the stadium. My wife got one and I got one. So that was just absolutely magical. So I realized that I've basically been monologuing about football for a little while. It's like, you get me started. It's just so much fun. We love it. Yeah.
So I am curious, one more football question then. When it comes to World
right.
Cup time, do you cheer for the US or England?
In that order. Always
Okay.
always cheering for the US, but when they inevitably go out in the group stage, then back England.
Yeah, well, England doesn't take much longer to go out usually than the US, I think. So
yeah, they've had a couple of good runs. They've had a couple.
yeah, they did have a few decent ones recently. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although I felt for him at that the last World Cup. I mean, that was a hard way to go out, but it was still fun. I enjoy it.
And then the women's team went and did what the men's team couldn't do. So.
Oh yeah, the women's team has just been absolute juggernauts over the last several years or last several cups. So
yeah, well, it's interesting because my daughter plays football. She's a teenager, and we get to see the development of girls' football, and it's really coming on. And actually, since the women won the World Cup, it's even exploded beyond that. So
nice.
England will be in good stead for a while, I think, with the women's team.
Oh yeah, and they're putting a lot of attention on the women's game too. So it's been nice to see in the States. There's whenever World Cup rolls around, it has a lot of attention. And of course, it's very American. It's like we like the big wins kind of feel to thing, and the women deliver. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, because I think Canada and the US were sort of the big two in women's football for a while because no one else had any teams. And now everyone's
Yeah.
catching up. So Canada's falling back. Of course, the US still a
Yeah.
powerhouse, but
Oh, that's a delicious rivalry to watch, though. Whenever there's like, it's a big deal whenever the U.S. goes up against Canada in the women's game. So that's always fun to watch.
yeah, that's true. um, so I guess moving on to some writing related to
Oh
stuff.
yeah, writing stuff. Yeah.
So I was curious then. So you wanted to go into accounting originally. You went into IT. You did write a lot of technical stuff and obviously a lot of code. What was sort of your path from that then to starting to write fiction?
Good question. So I always make the argument that good programmers are actually decent writers at a baseline, and that's only because you kind of need that command of language to do what you do. You need to be because it's really difficult to translate machine code into meaningful instruction. That's why technical writers are so valuable. And why it's like a career in and of itself. I mean, they're super valuable and and indispensable in the tech world. And so once I started kind of getting those chops, I didn't really realize that I was getting them. I was just kind of learning, how to convey ideas in in an instructional manner, and that naturally led itself to writing fiction, being able to convey ideas to a reader. Now, I didn't know anything about plots, hooks, anything like that, which is kind of a small thing to that you need when writing compelling
Just
fiction.
tiny, yeah.
Just tiny, very, very tiny. So I also joke, like, the first draft of my first novel, which it was a reimagination of the vampire legend, actually read pretty well as like a thesis on vampire biology, but it had no story. I thought it did, but it didn't. And that's when I started reading more. And when I was initially developing this idea, this was originally sparked by the Twilight Saga back in the, I believe it was the mid 2000s when it was really getting rolling. And this was back in the YA boom
Right.
that really put a lot of focus onto the YA genre. And one thing and I'm a big horror fan too. So I absolutely love, a good monster movie, love all the classics, and loved vampires as a classic monster. But one thing that really started getting under my skin with the YA craze, especially with vampires, is like all of the actual vampirism was kind of explained away, or like a hand waved away. It's like there was never really any rhyme or reason to the lore. It was just, that's what it is. Now let's concentrate on the love story. It's like, I want to know more about the lore.
Yeah.
So that kind of got under my skin, and that's when the idea started to come into my head, where, well, what if I were to take it an absolutely different direction and really do like a scientific deep dive on vampires? It's like, what could work, what couldn't work, how could I actually explain this from a realistic perspective? And that kind of turned into a pseudo research project, and that turned into an initial draft, and that turned into wanting to learn more about writing fiction, and I just couldn't shake it. And it just I thought about, and this was like a 10-year process. I just kept going and going and going, just kind of obsessing over this idea, and it eventually turned into a decent story. So I had rewritten it stem to stern 4 or 5 times, and it finally got to a point where I was like going into like critique groups and writers forums and writers groups, and kind of learning more about the craft. I was like, oh, actually, it's getting to the point where it's publishable. And I had no intentions of publishing it. Even at that point, I had no intention of actually becoming a published author, but some timely encouragement from a close friend said, you should see how it does. And I pulled the trigger.
Yeah. So you presumably decided to go indie publishing right from the beginning, like self-publishing, or did you search for an agent initially?
I did search for an agent initially, and what I had originally, at the tail end of Transient, I was working on the first book of my other series, Max and the Multiverse. And because Transient took so long to work on, I wanted to apply what I had learned to a fresh manuscript. And I thought that was a better one to shop to agents. And so publishing Transient was basically like a marketing decision. I just wanted something to promote while I was querying. And then Transient kind of took off in its own way, and Max of the Multiverse got some good feedback from the industry, but I didn't get any takers. And then Transient kind of really hooked the focus for a while because I wasn't expecting it to do as well as it did. And then that just became, it's like, oh, well, I'll just ride the indie wave until it tells me otherwise. And then it got optioned for a feature film, and that was it. And then I was just permanent indie from then on out.
Right. Did you ever decide to market it as a vampire romance?
I did, actually, and that's only because I didn't know anything about marketing. So I just thought, well, I'll just do whatever's popular. It had some romance in it. I mean, there is a certain element of that, but that was absolutely not the focus. And the reviewers told me exactly that. So they gave me that feedback very quickly. It's like, what are you doing? This is not what I expected. It's like, oh, it's probably because I'm absolutely marketing it wrong. And that's when I landed on promoting it as a tech noir, which is exactly what it is.
Okay. Yeah, I can fully appreciate what kind of feedback you might have got from from reviewers.
Marketing. I don't know if you know, but reviewers are shockingly honest.
I have heard.
Yes. Yeah, I got whipped into shape pretty quickly.
So what's your experience been with sort of the process? I did read some of your blog posts regarding writing and marketing. So I have some idea, but perhaps you can explain sort of, you've taken us through a little bit of your writing experience, but then you have sort of the indie publishing, and then, like you mentioned, the marketing. So I wonder if you could just sort of take us through your experiences with that.
Oh my goodness, marketing.
Because they all hate it, right? They are, like you suggest, like entirely different careers, almost like multiple different processes.
It is. Oh, the marketing beast. It is a fickle one. I face planted so many times with marketing, and it's like there's just so many different ways to market, and almost all of them fail, as any person or any author who has ever tried to get traction on a book or series will absolutely understand that marketing is just a absolute dodgeball game of trial and error. You will get smacked in the face. You will just dump you if you don't have like a really fundamental understanding of how you're going to market a book. You will just piss away piles of cash, and I did. It was not fun. But I eventually landed on, and of course, this is all detailed through my blog. So if anyone wants to go read my thorough thoughts on this, please feel free. But at the very beginning, this was back when social media was actually social, and had like a networking element to it. So I dove headfirst into that. So I was just kind of pushing the whole social media marketing, and I thought paid promos were just something the pros did. So I was doing I convinced myself I was doing the whole grassroots thing. And then social media just got more noisy and more toxic, and it just became super stressful because it really takes like just one misconstrued post to just absolutely set off the outrage machine. And it's just like you very much feel like you're walking on eggshells with it, and then you don't get a whole lot of return because you're just kind of shouting into the void. And it's really, really difficult to separate yourself from the noise, because I mean, as a brand, social media marketing is basically a giant game of saying, buy my stuff. without actually saying, buy my stuff. You kind of got to be clever about it and hook a readership or hook interest through like anecdotes and posts or blog posts and stuff like that, and just kind of get people off of the platform and kind of trap them in your website.
Right. It's kind of like, look at me, look at me, look at me. Oh, I got a book, by the way.
Exactly. And no, it's silly, but it's absolutely true. It's exactly what you have to do. And after a while, it just became stressful. And I just started backing away off social media. But what I started to do is paid ads, like BookBub, Free Booksy, Fussy Library, and stuff like that. And they just proved the absolute game changer for me. Now, BookBub, as every author trying to promote knows, is like they're very expensive. They're very hard to get, but they offer the only guaranteed ROIs in the game. So I started seeing actual legitimate traction and regular sales after I started getting BookBubs. In fact, getting BookBubs was the only reason I went wide. I was perfectly happy in KDP Select. It was easy. It was straightforward. And then going wide is an absolute, it's just mentally exhausting because there are so many ways to screw it up and there's so many things to keep track of. And every single platform requires different details and metadata. And it's just like, it's hard, but it really increases your chance of getting those featured deals, which are just absolutely invaluable. So that is the core of my marketing at this point, is just hunting BookBubs, which at this point, I'm getting pretty regularly. And then before the pandemic, I used to do a lot of events with Comic-Cons and basically the whole con circuit, doing literary cons, major Comic-Cons, minor Comic-Cons. And that's really great for authors just starting out, because it helps build a fan base because you have kind of a captured audience.
Right.
But once you start reaching a point where you've got, multiple books, multiple series, it's the ROI starts to bottom out because you see a lot of the same people and it's hard to sell sequels. So you got to do a lot of box sets, and then it becomes like an inventory nightmare. So I'll still do events if I'm invited to speak, but I've pulled away from those largely. But for new authors, they're great, especially if you have like one or two books and you can just put all focus on them and talk to potential fans. They're great. Right. But as of right now, most of my stuff is online driven.
Yeah, you're in the right part of the world, I guess, for a lot of Comic-Cons around you.
Oh yeah, very much so. It's like Albuquerque is actually, that's where I live. Albuquerque is actually a pretty good hub if you want to do the con circuit, because if you want to go all the way up to the top, you got San Diego within driving distance. And then there's also a ton of smaller but still giant cons like Salt Lake and Phoenix, all within driving distance, Denver. And then there's just a smattering of mid and low level cons. And so if you really want to fill your schedule, it's not that hard at all.
Yeah. So you've mentioned with your social media issues. So really right now, as far as you're concerned, the best way forward is largely the paid ads. But would you say that depends on the size of your backlist as well? Like, would you recommend that to an author who has one or two books in their backlist, or would you wait until you get to a certain level?
That is a very, very good distinction. So I'm glad you said that. It is absolutely better to have a backlist once you're doing paid ads, especially because if you run a paid promo and you only have like one or two books in an incomplete series, you're just going to anger people. Yeah. So the best thing to do is complete your series and then start doing paid ads. Now, if you have at least one series, that's fine. Or if you have a whole bunch of standalones, that's fine. But if you're an initial author, it's not going to do much for you because you're just going to quickly peter out and you're not going to have any backlog to direct readers to. So it's much, much harder to hook fans. But if you do have that one or two books, then events are wonderful because you get to just stand there and actually interface with the fan. You can talk about you talk about the premise, you can talk about your plans, and then they feel much more connected to you in that way, and are much more likely to stick around as you're writing out the series.
Right. So do you spend a lot of your marketing time working on building your subscriber list then? Would that be a primary focus? That's generally what's recommended. So I'm just
Yep.
wondering if that's still a.
It's exactly what I do.
So you do that.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm talking over you.
No, I was going to say, so if you're not on social media very much, do you do that primarily through, let's say, ads within your book itself? How would you guide people to your website from there?
Yes. So basically, what I do is I took all of the energy I was devoting to social media and shifted it onto the avenues that I can actually control. And that's website, blog, and mailing list. And coupled with the mailing list are the reader magnets. So being able to offer an exclusive title for people who sign up for the mailing list. And what's really nice about the mailing list, and I should clarify this too. I used to hate mailing lists, absolutely despise them, but that's only because I used to run a bunch of online businesses. So it was very impersonal. It was very, and this was back in the early days of the internet where, you didn't have the tools that we did today. It was very manual. I actually created kind of a rudimentary email server just to be able to do what I was wanting to do with some of the businesses that I was running. And it gave me kind of like a been there, done that. I hate doing it. My click-through rates are terrible because it was highly impersonal. It was a business or it was like a product-based business. So that's since been much better streamlined, much better studied as far as engagement. And now what I've discovered is when I send out a newsletter, I mean, I'll have like those same Comic-Con chats with fans just over email, because you kind of, the way I like to describe it is, and plus they become very, very personal and fun to write because I know I'm going to get those reactions. And what I've found, which I like to look at as a real world comparison, is like, say you have like 500 Twitter followers and you have like 50 newsletter signups. And this is like for someone, first starting out trying to get their feel for this kind of marketing tactic. Is like, you would think that your 500 followers are more valuable than your 500 emails. But the mirage here is that those 500 Twitter followers are also following 100 other accounts and they're just scrolling through the noise. So anything you post is going to get instantly locked into the churn or lost in the churn. Or if you're on Facebook, it gets throttled because you have to pay for reach. And that's one of the big reasons I left Facebook. Is like, no, I'm not giving you money just to reach the people who actually signed up to hear from me. So as opposed to newsletters, they actually signed up to hear from you directly. So it becomes very personal in that it's absolutely laser focused on a reader's inbox, and they can take their time, read through, see what kind of news. You can talk about anything you want, and you are that focus. It's like you are looking at the email content and not staring at a Facebook page when everything else is popping up around it. That's not you.
Right. Yeah.
So I very much got to the point where it's like, oh, I absolutely see this power now. I am very much going to put all of my my engagement effort into the newsletter, and those are just so much fun. I enjoy sending them. I enjoy doing announcements. It's like when when our conversation drops, I'm going to look forward to telling all the fans like, hey, check out this interview. And then I'm going to give a shout out to all my newsletter fans in Club ZDub. If you're listening, it's like, thank you for being part of this conversation. So, but yeah, I really have found much, much more genuine engagement through the newsletter. It's like it dwarfs social media to a comical degree.
Right.
And it is fun actually having that active community who, I'll send something out, I'll throw an update, and then I'll just get, responses back, and they'll start a conversation for a couple of days, and it's fun. I enjoy it.
Excellent. So do you send it out sort of monthly, or just whenever you feel like you have something to say? Or
it used to be monthly, and I stopped doing it monthly at the beginning of this year, specifically because whenever I started scheduling it, it created that I have to do filler. Like if I don't have anything to say, I have to come up with something to say. So a lot of times it'll be like, well, here's something from the blog 2 years ago. Hope you haven't read it yet. And it became a little bit more impersonal when I adhered to a schedule. So now I just send it out whenever I have something to say. Like this month, I'm releasing 2 novellas back to back, and it's just been several emails to the fan club, but they don't mind because they expect to hear from me from stuff like that. So at this point, I very rarely lose a lot to unsubscribes. And as opposed to when it was scheduled, it just becomes like, well, this is uninteresting. I don't want to hear from this anymore. So now I just limit it to when I have something to say. So it might be a month or two might go between newsletters, or I might send 3 in a month.
Right. So before we move on to your books, I just wanted to ask sort of if you had, let's say, some instructions to a new independent author who had maybe 1 or 2 books in their backlist, and they're looking for the best way to build awareness of their writing, what would be your advice?
Oh, that is a good question. I would say if you have 1 or 2 or 1 coming out, I would say, well, first, if you have nothing coming out and you're looking for your debut, stop what you're doing, develop a marketing plan. Come up with some kind of approach for when you hit the publish button, because it will slip into obscurity faster than you think. It's like if you don't have a launch plan, you are already behind. It is extremely hard to rekindle that initial launch. So I would say for people just starting out, come up with a launch plan. Now that could be many, many things. If you're in KDP Select, you could offer the book for free for a little while. You could actually use some lesser services like below the BookBub tier, like ENT, Free Booksy, Fussy Librarian, just to help promote it. They're much more affordable, and they're very good at generating some initial buzz. And then after I would also concentrate on starting to build an email list very, very soon, even before you have a book out, because if you can start building interest in that story and start coming up with some really focused newsletter subscribers, that will help you very much, because typically most of your launch sales are going to come from your newsletter, or at least they do for me at this point. And what's particularly nice about having that built-in fan base from a newsletter is it helps you build like ARC teams and beta teams,
Right.
and you kind of have that kind of captured interest. And then from there, I found it beneficial to have a couple of events on the schedule soon after launch. Like it's if you are launching, say for if you're launching at the first of the month, I'll have an event planned for like the middle of the month, so it can get a little bit of buzz. And FYI, I'm going to be at this event. Come out and say hello. I'll have some copies to sign and stuff like that. And so for people with small backlogs, I'd say start concentrating on your newsletter list and come up with a launch plan. Otherwise, you're just going to be spinning your wheels, and you're not going to know why there's no eyeballs. So see if I can summarize that. Launch plan, an event or 2, and a couple of low-tier paid services to get some initial eyeballs on your books. So,
right. Would you recommend waiting until you have a few books within the series if you're writing a series, or would you go straight with the first one?
It's always better to have a completed series ready to go, but that itch to get it out is just sometimes too great. So you do you. If you want to get it into the hands of readers and then create that expectation, now just know that if you have fans of that work, they're going to start hounding you. and Lord help you if you write in a cliffhanger, they will be very upset with you.
Yeah, so, even the biggest writers get into trouble, don't they? Yeah. His name's escaped me, but Game of Thrones,
George R.R. Martin.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, he got into trouble, didn't he, for not
exactly
the last book.
Yeah, fans are pretty forgiving if you're putting forth the work, but if you have a lingering storyline out there and you want to go on to something else, they're not going to let you forget that they want a conclusion.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So but it's hard. It's hard to get to a point where you have a completed series of books ready to go, because that's very time consuming. That's very expensive. That's, triple the cost of covers, triple the cost of editing, triple the cost of everything. So it can be daunting to do like that rapid release schedule. So generally you only see that when an author has a pretty large backlog. Otherwise, they'll just release them as they complete them, or as they have them edited and polished, ready to go.
Right.
So one giant non-answer.
I was just gonna say you have yourself several series then. I wanted to start sort of quickly with some of the newer ones, which are your short series. We can sort of discuss some of the ideas around them, and then
Sure.
we'll hit your Immortal Wake transient series.
Okay.
So you have Multiverse shorts, and I'm not sure, Pookie Horpocket short stories. Is that?
Hey, you got it.
How do you pronounce that?
So Pookie Horpocket, you got it.
Okay. All right. So I mean, I love the covers on these. First of all, they're great.
Oh, thank you.
And so the Pookie Horpocket, I wonder if you could just walk us through the series. You listed it actually as satire, fiction, and humor, and it's not in a sci-fi category, despite seeming to be sci-fi.
Yeah, the reason for that is because science fiction as a category is extremely hard to get noticed in. So if you have a subcategory that can set yourself apart even more, I generally focus on that category. All of my stuff is science fiction, but I don't promote any of it as science fiction.
Right.
With the one exception of BookPub, because if you can get a sci-fi category BookPub, then that's tens of thousands of downloads for one title.
Right.
But I promote my sci-fi comedy series as generally satire and comedy, and I promote my Immortal Wake series as noir and thrillers and stuff like that. Which it's true, but that's the subcategories. But yeah, Pookie Horpocket Presents is actually it's a collection of standalone books and shorts, and so I've got one full novella, two short stories, and two novellas. The fifth title of which is actually releasing in a couple of days, which will be out by the time this airs. But it's actually a spin-off series from Max and the Multiverse. So technically, Pookie Horpocket Presents exists under the Max and the Multiverse umbrella, which is also a sci-fi comedy series. And so the original trilogy of Max books, 1, 2, and 3, and then there's technically 5 more shorts, because the 5th short in Max and the Multiverse is My Magnet, is my fan club exclusive. And then the Pookie Horpocket Presents actually takes place on a planet-sized space station that is featured in the Max and the Multiverse series. So technically, it's all part of the Max and the Multiverse umbrella, all 13 titles.
And are they YA as well? Then I see that the Multiverse ones were listed. Max and the Multiverse was listed as YA.
Yes. So Max was originally written actually as an adult series, but the links were more conducive to a YA, and it was easy enough to rewrite the first book as YA. Actually, that was one of the feedback I got from the queried agents. And they said it would work much better lengthwise as a YA novel. And then I started thinking, this actually would make the humor much more believable, because whenever you throw a teenager into a very stressful situation, basically any reaction is believable because it's a teen. so it's like they're going to do something weird. So it allows the comedy to breathe better. It started as a YA. Pookie Horpocket Presents, though, is fully adult. So even though it exists in that universe, I do not market it as YA at all. It's full sci-fi adult, and the material is conducive to that.
Right. So you don't have any issue with readership switching between the two then? Are they separate readership, or does everyone enjoy both?
Both. Everyone enjoys them. Even though Max and the Multiverse is YA, most of my readership is adults.
Right.
Very, very few, I would say a very small percentage of my Max fans are actually YA themselves. And then the series exists separately from each other, but they share the same universes and characters. So you could read the whole Pookie series without ever reading the Max series, and vice versa.
Right. Now, you did have an interesting, I don't know, hook, I suppose, within the Max and the multiverse. It's in the blurb, so I don't think it's a spoiler. He falls asleep and shifts between universes. Interestingly, I have a character in one of my developing stories with similar, although mine has some. Well, he interprets it as a mental health issue. There's also an author I interviewed recently, Tim Adewell, who wrote Midnight Anthem, who did something not quite like this, but it's through the sleep they enter another, and then they have to fight a war and everything. So I was wondering what attracted you to that idea of shifting dreams.
So the whole sleeping part was not part of it originally at all. I just like the idea of a multiverse story. Specifically, I really love multiverse tales, and of course the concept of parallel universes just absolutely endlessly fascinates me. Absolutely adore the theory, and it's just rife for good storytelling. What I noticed with a lot of multiverse tales, think of like Stargate or Doctor Who, all the classics, is there's always a reason to interact with them, in a form of a mission, or a protagonist has got a quest or something like that. So the idea popped into my head of, well, what if there wasn't one? What if some hapless fool was just thrust into the situation against their will, and now they have to deal with parallel universes? And that was the genesis of the story. And the whole sleeping thing came by way of the original idea was something had happened. And of course, I explain this away because it's not important to the story. It's just a pop of humor as to why this is happening. Because the real story is not why it's happening, but how he interacts with it as someone who doesn't want to. So that's where all the humor comes. So it was originally set as like, at midnight, the universe switches. So something had happened to where he's now in this time loop of he keeps reliving the same day, kind of like a Groundhog Day, but in a different universe. And that became very hard to tell an actual story in, because it just became very episodic, very bottle episode. Each chapter was just a short story, which ironically is how the Max and the Multiverse shorts came to be, because they all originally started out as book chapters. But they didn't really move the story forward, but they were funny enough to be their own thing. So that's actually what the Max shorts are. They can be read independently. They have no bearing on the main story, but can be read individually. But that's where the whole sleep thing came in, because that was much better way to tell a linear story. So he keeps going through this emerging narrative, but every time he falls asleep, he switches to a new, or he shifts to a new universe. So whenever he wakes up, he has to deal with a new reality, whatever it is. Now, I had to create a whole bunch of rules with this, and that was actually, funny enough, one of the reasons why the book coming out on the 26th, this Friday, answers a lot of those outstanding fan rules, or outstanding fan questions, because it does require. I did have to kind of write a rule book for why this is happening, how it's happening, why he shifts in certain kind of situations, and it was just to kind of maintain my own sanity when I was writing out the story, or writing out the main plot. So that's the background foundation for what's happening during the Max story. Is like every time he falls asleep, he shifts to a new universe, which makes him. And now once he kind of understands what's going on, then it becomes like well, how do I want this to happen? Or if I don't like a universe, can I just, get knocked out and go to the next one? Stuff like that. And it becomes a very easy way to have humorous pops throughout the series.
Right. I was just thinking that because, for example, the famous multiverse that's being developed right now is obviously the MCU. But there is a lot of criticism, because you can say, well, there's no consequences, as we've just seen In a couple movies, one of the characters was resurrected, basically. Not really resurrected, but they grabbed her from a different part of the universe and brought her into the main line. But I suppose by writing it a humorous story set in the multiverse, you could even potentially challenge tropes, or you can just have fun with it without sort of being locked into some of the serious parts of a multiverse. And the lack of consequence could be a humorous issue or something.
Yeah, very much so. And but I will say that was one of the things I knew from the very, very beginning when I was writing this series. And that was the biggest gripe I had with Multiverse of Madness and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, there's no consequence. The people writing this obviously have limited understanding of that kind of multiversal effect. Now, of course, it's a popcorn movie kind of thing. Is like, you go there just to be, to look at the visuals. But from a story perspective, if you're reading this, it's like those rules matter. And I knew from the first chapter that there needed to be tangible consequence for disrupting that. And that's what the entire series is geared towards. Like the first book sets that up in the first handful of chapters. It's just like this has a tangible consequence for how you interact in those other universes.
It does strike me that you mentioned the Doctor Strange movie, that the America Chavez character could be considered a little bit like Max, the way you describe Max, which is that she's thrust into the multiverse with no purpose. Now, I mean, they didn't develop her in the movie at all. So that's another issue, but a similar kind of character, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. But
and a lost opportunity for him.
It's a good observation. It's a similar situation. Of course, the America Chavez is played more seriously and consequential, and or not consequential, but like more action focused and stuff like that. Yeah, there really wasn't any development there. And the whole point of the Max series is how is this character growing throughout this experience, and coming to grips with this situation and seeing what his actions do, or seeing the consequences that his actions put in front of him and his friends and his crew and all of that. And I very much play that out through all the books, and there are some times where it becomes very apparent that a bad decision will result in some seriously vexing situations that you now have to get yourself out of. So that has been probably the most fun I've had in developing the series, is really kind of thinking through these scenarios. And of course, Max being a teen and not really having a grip on those kinds of consequences as he's growing, it becomes a real fun way to mine some humor.
Right. Yeah. I was wondering, sort of one last question on this series.
Sure.
In terms of the type of multiverse. So if it's not a spoiler, when he switches universes, does he ever meet himself, or does he sort of, or is it like a holographic universe where he goes in, it's like enters his other persona kind of thing?
Funny enough, this is the biggest outstanding question of the fan base.
Okay.
It's like, so what exactly is happening here? It's like, so as I generally described it throughout the series, is that his consciousness switches universes with his counterpart. So he inhabits the body of his counterpart in another universe, and that counterpart switches back to him. And then he just keeps bouncing into new situations in new bodies. So basically, the question became, what the heck is happening to the original Max? Because he's got to be in a mental institution or something right now, because he's just like cycling through personalities every time the original Max conscious shifts. And that actually became the focus of the final book that's coming out Friday.
Okay.
So that question finally gets explained, and with the appropriate consequences.
So was that encouraged by your fan base then?
It was very much so. This was a straight up demand. It's like, I have to have closure. What is happening to the original Max? So But I
Excellent.
always have fun, and this is an ongoing newsletter discussion too. I always this has been an ongoing discussion since the first book came out, so I always have fun discussing this. And because of those fan discussions, it's allowed me to really consolidate like a grounded narrative and idea of what is actually happening in the background that fans are curious about. And it's like, well, you have been asking for quite a while, and I think it's time to give you a tangible, a satisfying finale that answers all of those outstanding questions. And that's the fifth Pookie book.
Excellent. Now you have, I guess, the series that you wrote before the Max and the Multiverse was the Immortal Wake trilogy, and the first one being Transient. You mentioned this was inspired by vampire romance novels, and then you wanted to do more world building within there. I want to describe them as vampires. I don't know if you visualize them that way. They don't use that term. I mean, they kind of use it in a derogatory way in this story, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Fun fact, I only used the term vampire twice in the first book, and it's derogatory in tone. It's used as a slur. But yeah, it's like I'm not against the term vampire. It was just part of the story that the civilization that was emerging wanted to put that behind them. It's like we used to use that name, now we don't. Now we use Eternals.
Right.
That's part of the narrative.
Yeah. Although even the Eternals, you kind of have characters challenge the use of that one, don't you? As it being a little bit self-aggrandizing, etc.
Very much so. And it's like, and that was intentional. That was absolutely intentional. This was it's like, well, we don't want to use this word, but we're going to use that word now. And it's just like, well, that word is also problematic as, of course, a little commentary on how, just calling it something else doesn't change.
I was wondering if that relates to any of the social issues going on, that sort of thing, because you see that all the time nowadays, especially. It's become almost an art form to change the terminology, but not really change anything else.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's definitely commenting on that phenomenon. Now, this was published back in 2016, back when it wasn't nearly as prevalent as it is now. And a lot of new fans are picking up on that. It's like, hey, is this kind of a subtle thing it's like, no, this was published years ago, but yes and no. It can be viewed in that kind of modern lens, but it wasn't nearly as focused as it wasn't nearly as intended in today's lens as it was, several years ago when this kind of stuff was still in its infancy.
Yeah, it's amazing how quick that's changed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You do have a lot of interesting I'll just say generally discussions on various subjects within where to start, I guess, is the question. So one of the things, I guess one of the things that's obvious for me is without getting into the world building too much, because I don't want to do any spoilers, but you have humans and you have the Eternals. And because this is a novel and a science fiction novel, there's going to be a conflict. But,
what? Come on now. Everyone lives happily ever after. You know that.
Yeah, exactly. It seems weird. And again, commentary on human nature, perhaps, or nature. The idea that it seems very obvious looking from the outside that these two groups have complementary characteristics, which could make for a very useful collaboration in their society, but yet they instead sort of try to eradicate each other and potentially themselves in the process. I mean, is that would seem to be a commentary on was that intentionally brought in, or is it sort of one of those things you're just sort of dumping your thoughts on the world in this framework?
That was very intentional. And the overall, now I very much stay away from themes, because as soon as you inject a core theme into a work, it can often come across as preachy. So I intentionally avoid that kind of narrative. But what I did want to point out is the general concept of you'll have differences with someone or some group, but 90% of the things in your life you agree on.
Right.
So, maybe it's better to focus on that instead of and then work on the stuff you don't, instead of just digging in and hurling feces over the fence. So a lot of that is, a lot of this book is a commentary on that kind of rooted tribal view of the other, whether that's from one side or another, because in the long run, you have far more in common than you care to admit.
Yeah, that reminds me of a comedian I used to listen to when I was younger, Emo Phillips, who had this
Oh yeah.
segment on religion. And
Mhm.
the two characters, one character was standing on a bridge thinking whether to jump or not. And the other character was telling him, no, you have so much to live for. And then they discuss commonalities of their religion. And they're all the same denomination all the way back through until one small change. The guy pushes him off the bridge.
Yep.
Yeah, it's quite funny.
Oh, I do like me some emo.
Yeah. And you do go into religion is one of the things maybe you do rant on a little bit in this one.
Yeah.
Because obviously,
you can't not if you have a species that essentially is immortal, quote unquote immortal. It's like religion is naturally going to come under the chopping block, so to speak. So there had to be that kind of pushback, and of course, the human faction being mortal, that's going to be a crutch to lean on,
Right.
especially when it comes to justification their views against the other. So that was really difficult to manage, because I knew going in, I was like, no matter how well I execute this, I'm going to piss off someone. So that was, I think I did pretty well in kind of laying out the conflict there, at least the religious conflict. But yeah, inevitably I'll get pushback to this day about it. It's like it gets someone's feathers in a ruffle.
Yeah. It is interesting because you did use, for the human side, an authoritarian leader based around religion, using religion as his justification, as it were. But the Eternals also had an authoritarian system built in. And so, like you said, both sides in many ways had more similarities than differences. And I found it interesting that you also had a discussion in it where, let's say, it's clear at certain points that the human character, let's say, values some of the structures of the Eternal society. But then when he's talking to some of the Eternals, they're like, well, no, we're not really that great. I mean, you're much better than we are. Right? And
Yeah,
so
that was I'm very
ahead.
happy you bring that up, because that was also very intentional, because I wanted it to be again one of those we're similar and we're just not seeing it. It's like, yeah, the humans have this really kind of traditional hardline religious authoritarianism, and on the flip side, of course, the Eternals are looking at that as like the old guard. Is like, you just need to die out, and not realizing they're doing the exact same thing.
Right.
It's like they're just doing it from a totalitarian secular stance, and they can't see that they're doing it. Humans can't see they're doing it, and then that's a major source of the conflict. So I'm happy that comes across. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Because then the nature of change as well, which we'll get into a bit later, but yeah, that both are stagnant, which is interesting. Yeah. So I think we are moving on in our time. So I think I'm going to move into the second segment of the show,
Sure.
where we have the lightning round and then the big questions, and then
All
I've
right,
saved a
let me
few of the
brace.
questions around transient for there as well.
All right, I'm ready.
So the lightning round, some pop culture questions, and then we'll warm you up for the challenging ones. So the first one is again, since we're on sort of a vampire type theme, we got Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Twilight.
Oh, Buffy. Not even a
Classic,
close second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Highlander or Apocalypse? This is Marvel's Apocalypse. I don't know if you know this character very well.
Yeah, I know Apocalypse. I'm going to go with Highlander. I think it's a much more compelling narrative.
And the movies as well. I mean, presumably,
Yeah.
the movie, yeah, because the Apocalypse, the one where he featured, wasn't such a great movie.
Yeah. Oh, the Highlander movies, they are so like cheesy by today's standards, but I still love them. I absolutely love them.
First one was, I mean, still as a classic. The second one
Oh
was
yeah,
weird, wasn't it? It went really
it
strange.
was.
So speaking on Eternals, Q from Star Trek, or let's say an MCU Celestial.
Gonna go with Q. Much more complex. Q is just a super complex character. I've thoroughly enjoyed Fall. Now it's been quite a while since I've revisited like Next Gen and some previous Trek, but yeah, Q never. There's just so much depth to that character, so much fun to follow and learn more about. And I keep kind of crapping on MCU. I like Marvel, but it's like you're giving me hard choices.
Well, that's true. I mean, the Celestials are more or less forces of nature embodied kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I'm curious. So on Q, because one of the things that did come across in the Next Generation was they largely had a stagnant society, because they'd done everything, been everywhere. And do you think that I mean, immortality is a really interesting thing to think about, but that is a danger, isn't it? We'll get to more detail on that in a moment, but yeah. Number 4 is Doctor Who or Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Hitchhikers. And I will clarify that as pretty much anything you put against Hitchhikers is going to lose. It's like Douglas Adams has been my favorite author since childhood. So I'm a huge Hitchhikers fan. They're my favorite books to this day. So it's I even like the movies. They're not that great, but I still love them.
Yeah. And then I'll give you 2 Marvel choices for this one, so you're going to pick a Marvel one another way. But
all right,
that's
fair.
So since you brought it up, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, or Spider-Man: No Way Home, which both
No Way Home, absolutely No Way Home.
Yeah.
Not even a second thought. That was such a good. It was such a well made. It was well thought out. It was like you could tell watching that movie from beginning to end. It was a grounded idea, start to finish, in the writer's room, and it's like it was just so well executed. Yeah, I absolutely adored that movie. Multiverse of Madness was a disappointment. It was still enjoyable from the spectacle, but No Way Home, oh, so good.
Yeah, with No Way Home, they got the right beats and they had lots of fan service, didn't they? What would
and you have to strike that balance so well. It's like if you're just all fan service, then it just you feel pandered to, and then if it's all new ideas, then you feel not listened to, and it's like I kind of feel bad for directors and writers trying to strike that balance, and No Way Home did it beautifully.
Yeah. Put you on the spot off the top of your head. Give me one change you might have made in the Doctor Strange movie to let's say fulfill the promise that I think a lot of the fans were expecting from it.
Biggest one that jumps into mind is maybe make the movie about Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I suppose.
That was kind of the biggest head scratcher for me. Is like I'm going into this movie is like he's a side character in his own movie. Either call it something else or make it about Strange. So that was just it set expectations up for disappointment right out of the gate. And it just galloped into that and it never recovered, at least from my perspective. But yeah, I would have made it much more Strange centric. And if you want to make something about America Chavez, then make something about America Chavez.
Or Scarlet Witch.
Just don't bait and switch.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say classic Phase 4 bait and switch from Marvel.
Yeah. Oh, I have been thoroughly disappointed in Phase 4 specifically because of that. It's just like, okay, here's the character you thought you were going to see, and now on to this one, and you're never going to see him again.
You just wonder, like, obviously they don't have confidence in the new characters they want to bring in, so they have to piggyback them. Which is, and it
stinks. It stinks of a marketing decision, and they think the fans aren't going to give them crap about it, and it's just like, what are you thinking, man?
Especially after you've done it like more than half a dozen times now. Not that slow. Totally
agree.
So the 2 big questions then, largely centered around the transient series and the ideas in there. And so I wanted to ask you then, if you were to become immortal, how would you structure your life to continue giving it meaning after, let's say, hundreds or thousands of years? Like, what would you do to overcome perhaps the inevitable boredom of repetition? Or another feature would be setting your life up to live comfortably, because obviously you don't want to live forever in poverty either, right?
Mm-hmm. This is a major point of the book too. Very much exploring this idea through actually a specific character. And I thought about this a lot, and I still don't actually have a good answer with it. Just because you really don't that like having that end point really is intrinsically motivated just as a human being.
Right.
So you like one of my favorite like Neil deGrasse Tyson insights was like, I fear being able to do something and then chose not to. Being like I
Chose not
have,
to fear.
yeah. And so and of course he said it differently. I forget the exact quote, but if you have all the time in the world, literally, it's like, I just don't see the motivation to do much. It's like, because you're eventually you always have tomorrow.
Right.
So I honestly don't know how that would affect me psychologically. I mean, I tried to answer that question in the book, but I still don't have a satisfying answer. And I think that's exactly what would happen, is like people would be thrilled by the prospect, but disappointed by the reality. And this plays out in horrific fashion in the second book. And that's where, and in a way, like the whole series can be one long arc of answering that question. Because that is really the root of this, is like, is that a good or a bad thing? Is having tomorrow a benefit, or not knowing tomorrow is coming an even greater benefit? And yeah, I guess that was a really long way of saying I have no idea.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously there are groups, some of the transhumanist groups talking about immortality, things like that. I've even seen videos discussing death as a disease that should be cured. But when I look at it, well, first of all, you do suggest a certain stagnation within their society in book one, which I completely think would happen, because, as you say, there's no driving motivation to keep moving you forward. And then the other part that's obviously going to drive the stagnation as well is immortality would effectively eliminate offspring, which I think, if I'm remembering, they don't have offspring in yours either. But I think even with humans, like were we to somehow extend our life, I think we would stop having children as a natural consequence of that. And then you miss out entirely on the recycling of, let's say, ideas, civilization, etc., and you naturally will stagnate, which is a horrendous thing, basically.
Yeah,
at least for me, anyway.
And you reminded me with that, one of the big points I make in the second book, and this is not a spoiler, but this is one of the major conflicts, is that realization that when you do have that kind of infinite like clock ahead of you, then death becomes defiance. So it's not, you're not avoiding death so much as making death meaningful. And then you kind of realize, oh, at some point, people are going to want to die for something than live for nothing. Right. And then that's going to become a very psychological breaking point for individuals and society at large. And I play that out through the second book, Thursday Midnight.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. Yeah, it's interesting with regards to the children as well. I was just thinking another way that the two societies could somehow be interrelated would be that you think possibly the Eternals would want to keep the humans around to have children and then feed the children into the Eternal Society, because otherwise, as you say, if death becomes your meaning kind of thing, then gradually the eternal society will wither away, and there
Yep.
is no long-term future, ironically, for an immortal species.
And funny enough, I addressed that exact point, because I mean, this is another second book point, because actually no, it started at the end of the first book, but this was the fascinating thing about this whole experience and kind of crafting this trilogy, is like, once you answer one question, it immediately asks like two follow-ups, and then once you answer those, it immediately generates more, because when you're dealing with immortality from a mortal starting point, it's like you don't know the questions you're going to be asking yourself. You only dealing with the initial pros and repercussions. But once all those are ironed out, it gets deeply philosophical, and I thoroughly enjoyed diving into that. And I think I was able to hit most of those, but every now and then, like, a fan will come back and ask, "It's like, well, what if?" Had you thought of this? It's like, oh crap, that's a really good point. Now, of course, the narrative is still complete, but it's just like new story seeds. It's just like, oh, that's a really good thing to maybe explore on a side thing. Or yeah, it's a fun. I mean, it's definitely more philosophical leaning, but it's a fun concept to think about.
Yeah. No,
from
it
a
definitely
fictionalized
is.
standpoint.
I'd love to spend like a couple hours discussing that.
Oh yeah.
So moving on to the second question, it is, I suppose, in some way related, but not really. Well, we'll see. I won't.
All right.
So you have a line that says, "A culture that rejects change is a culture that dies," which is kind of sort of what we were discussing as well. And yet, sort of both cultures in the transient reject change in their own way. But we humans have seen dramatic change and accelerating social and technological change. And, I think as I've become more aware of history, I look back, those two things coming hand in hand from like the 1700s, more or less, right? Moving up through the, industrial and computer revolutions, general and female suffrage, the outlawing of slavery, the formation of nations like the US, Canada, Italy, Germany. And so change is necessary, but often seems destructive. And I can't help wonder if we leave it too long, right? And I don't know if I want to get into the power structures that might control that, but it does seem that our societies might leave it too long, and it becomes destructive. So I was wondering if you were able to give advice. This is a big one. To a fledgling society, let's say, about how to manage the inevitable and necessary changes. What would you suggest? So one of the changes that always comes to my mind is clearly female suffrage, because I feel like the issues that it's led to now started because it was addressed too late. So we had general suffrage being started about 100 years earlier, and then female suffrage took much longer to be addressed in any way by let's say the power structures, and that's one issue. And so I'm just wondering, like, how would you, because you can't necessarily suggest it too early, because every society evolves from their own basic natural instincts, and so there are certain features that will evolve within the culture. And so I've given you a long-winded question there, but
oh, no worries. It's like, and this is something I thought about a lot with this particular series, and I think a generalistic answer to that would be, I think the key would be restraint. Like, society is going to progress. That's just inevitable. It has a 100% batting average throughout history. It's going to happen, change or die. But I will say that as long as there are restraints, and I kind of look at it through like the scientific method. So if you're going to assume a new thing is the collective understanding of a concept, then it has to be tested, it has to be thoroughly vetted, it has to be agreed upon, it has to be foundationally accepted as a new thing. It's like, yes, we all agree this is now, like, this old thing was kind of not a good thing to do. This is what we're doing now. Otherwise, if you sprint like headlong into change for change's sake, you're going to destroy yourself, and it's happened every single time. It's just the law of progress. So I think to answer that question without actually going into any like specific details, I would say restraint is the key. Steady progress, not racing progress.
So I guess that's, from my perspective, a highly optimistic view, simply because
Yeah.
we have examples right now where we've had issues, without mentioning any specifically, which have largely been significant for less than 10 years and yet are causing absolute havoc within our social structures. I mean, because of lack of restraint, but the lack of restraint also results, I think, from a certain fear within members of those populations.
Very much so.
And then narratives that are formed around that as well. And so how do you even consider to manage restraint? Like, there are, I think many of us can see logical, let's say scientific scientific methodological ways forward that significant parts of society aren't willing to listen to, let's say.
Yeah. That is a question for someone smarter than me. But, I mean, not claiming that I have any useful info on this, but yeah, I feel that. I very much feel that. It's like there is a new level of hostility that I don't think any of us saw coming. Like for hundreds of years, it's just been this kind of slow march of new idea followed by greater and greater acceptance, and then collective realization that the old idea actually was incorrect or misinterpreted or whatever. Now, it just seems like fireworks going off everywhere, and no one knows what to think, and everyone is afraid to say anything, and people are. There, a large section of the society is turtling because they just have absolutely no idea what to make, what sense to make any of it. And then the loudest on one side and the loudest on the other side are just continue to scream at each other. And it's like, how do you emerge from that? I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah. Do you think that the center has to be stronger?
You'd think.
I mean, I used to be on Twitter. I stopped being on Twitter like more than 10 years ago. But I actually deleted my account. But before I deleted my account, I remember reading one of my last posts, which was in 2011. And this was when some of the, let's say, what we used to call politically correct was sort of beginning to come back again. And I did make a comment on there that if it's not challenged, it's going to result in, let's say, a far right extremist leader. And so, I was one of these people that was probably relieved that we only got Trump, right?
Like now imagine like a competent, motivated Trump with an agenda.
You could have had someone far worse than Trump, right? Because as a certain side becomes stronger in voice, the only people willing to stand up to that side are the extremists on the other side. Which is, of course, what we're seeing all over our societies now.
Yeah, and this is like scaring the crap out of the centrals or the centrists, because it's like when you're sitting at the center and you think, political correctness, it's like it all started with a pretty noble premise. It's like everyone should be treated equal. It's like you got equal rights for, like, voting rights for women, women's suffrage. That's a really good example of how the movement started. And then it just like the Frankenstein monster just kind of got loose and is now bulldozing through society. I can't. It makes writing really difficult, especially humor, because I don't know. I have yet to really figure out if this is kind of like a temporary, like, overcorrection, or if it's the new normal. And it's hard to gauge that especially when you're writing something humorous, because you think, like, I remember writing a piece where I said, it's like, well, there's no such thing as timeless comedy, because times change and we view certain things acceptable and certain things as not. And the example I gave was like, go watch a 50s sitcom and try not to cringe, and it's like, and now it's like, maybe it's like things from like the 90s and the aughts are like problematic. And it's just like,
Yeah,
it's like, this is too fast, everyone. It's like we're cannibalizing culture at this point. And it's getting to the point where it's like it's like publishing feels like a minefield, almost like chumming the water, and it's hard not to think about when you're generating content, especially humorous content.
yeah. It is, like you say, difficult to judge where this is going. Typically, you'd have like the pendulum swinging back and forth. So you have one side rise up, and then the other side counter it, and you sort of get this swinging back and forth. But social media has linked the communities and given a loud voice to many, to the point where they can adapt very quickly to each other's arguments. And so it doesn't, like, it feels like the counter position is rising up at the moment, but at the same point, it doesn't feel like the other one is going away at all. So it almost feels like it's like a ramping up of both sides at this point.
Yeah, I think I have a little bit of hope with this, and this all comes from people who study this, like the Jonathan Haidts of the world and stuff like that. But I have hope that I do kind of feel the pendulum starting to swing back. I think people are quite sick of the loud fringes, and the everyone in the center, and the center is huge right now. It's like, that's one thing I want to make abundantly clear. It's like, this is not like a 50v50 thing. It's just like the fringes are getting smaller and smaller, but louder and louder. And I think there is that kind of feel that everyone in the center is going, all right, guys, enough of this crap. Let's bring it back to more nuanced discussion about policy and stuff, and just like kind of mute the culture war a little bit. So I have hopes that maybe it's coming back, but at the same time, it's still quite the minefield. And that's one of the reasons I ultimately abandoned social media, is just because the rules changed so fast in discourse. It's just like, I'm not even going to be a part of it. I'm not even going to risk putting something out innocuous and then have it misconstrued.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's. I think you're right. I do feel the center, let's say, awakening, and I think you can tell because politicians are starting to push back, and when that happens, they have to have some support because they're fairly spineless generally.
Yeah,
it's kind of sad, I suppose, that it takes the let's say the silent majority so long to wake up. I mean, it's been like a decade essentially.
It's hard to have that conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And finally it has to affect them personally before they can see, and it's now reached that level where everyone's being affected by it on a personal level. And now they're saying, no, wait, this doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are also starting to wake up to the technology pieces being quite toxic and harmful. It's like it used to be like, coming back to social media, it used to be like saying you're going to leave social media is akin to social suicide. And now it's like, no, this is harming my health. I need to get away from it. And then there's a great documentary on Netflix. Another guy I have utmost respect for, Tristan Harris, did the Social Dilemma. For anyone looking to leave social media, I think that's a very compelling viewing. But yeah, I really hope that feel of kind of recorrecting is real, and I think next year is probably going to tell us whether it is or not.
Yeah. Well, what I hope, I suppose, because I mean, they are powerful tools and they can be very useful, but they've exposed flaws within ourselves, I think, and that have been exploited and can easily be exploited. And I think, best case scenario is that we learn better self-control within these regards. So we learn what's important, how to put these things off to the side and use them for, the best ways they're meant to be used, and ignore the worst ways.
Then, I mean, I definitely think that there are better options to or there are better frameworks to develop social media in. I just think the current one is extremely toxic and
Toxic.
potent.
Yeah, that's the only word that comes.
And I think it's a lot of it just has to do with algorithmic engagement. There has to be another financial incentive with it. I don't know if that's a subscription model or it's just like the platforms don't care how bad the content is. They just want you to stay on the platform. It's like, that is not healthy.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's literally the definition of pushing addiction, basically, the way they're doing
Exactly.
Yeah.
It does. It feels like every single time I'd go to social media, it felt like I was like, feeding the dealer. It's like, I just don't feel comfortable with this anymore. So
yeah, well, I guess there's the saying, isn't it? If you're not paying for the product, then you are the product, right?
Yep, exactly.
And on that note,
anyone who doubts that, just 2 words: Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, as I said, on that note, it's been great chatting with you. I'd love to continue these conversations for a lot longer, but I think an hour and a half is about as much as we can have for a podcast.
Oh, yeah, we could go all night, but I appreciate the conversation. This has been a lot of fun chatting with you, Edwin. Thank you for having me on.
I enjoyed it as well, very much. But before we go, perhaps you can just tell us, so again, remind us what you have coming out next, where to find you online, and then if you're going to be at any upcoming events or anything like that.
Sure. So the latest title I have coming out is called Max, Public Enemy #1 of the Fourth Dimension. It is the final book for both series, Max and the Multiverse and Pookie Horpocket Presents. After that, then the next release will be the Pookie Horpocket Presents box set. And after that, I have no plan. So we'll see what work in progress tickles my fancy. But if you want to learn more about me, the easiest way is to go to my website, ZachryWheeler.com. And if you want to keep up to date on my happenings, the best way to do that is to subscribe to my email list, which you can do at the website.
Yeah, and then you can give them some ideas on the next books you should be working on.
That's right. All input welcome.
Exactly. So, Zachry Wheeler, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Edwin.
And thank you for listening. Information and links related to this and all episodes are available at alternatefutures.co.uk. I'm also over at Substack under Alternate Futures, where I post articles on science fiction, socio-technological issues, and futurism. You can subscribe for free or sign up for a paid account if you'd like to support the podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, why not share it with friends, writers, and other sci-fi fans you know? And if there are any indie sci-fi creators you'd like to see featured, send me a message at podcast@alternatefutures.co.uk. Once again, I'd like to thank you for listening, and I hope you'll join me on the next episode.
This is the future. Human error. Evolution. This is the future.